How did Dave Chappelle destroy cancel culture? Is that possible? Will annihilating cancel culture save him from being roasted on the grill? And what happens if Dave gets roasted? Is his legacy gone? You'll find out soon enough as we reveal the full details of this story. If you're new to this controversy, we'd be your tour guide on the this and that of this online war. Dave Chappelle is no newcomer when it comes to sparking an uproar. He can casually make any community rain curses and threats at him without breaking a sweat. In his recent and probably final Netflix special titled The Closer, the world-famous comedian was perceived to fire shots at the LGBTQ community, especially the trans people. In some parts of the hour-long show, he referred to the vaginas of women and transgender women, citing that the latter's genital is somewhat unoriginal compared to the former. Amidst all the perceived slur to the transgender people of the LGBTQ community by Dave Chappelle, co-CEO of Netflix, Ted Sarandon, weighed in on the controversy to support the targeted comedy veteran. This act of defense for Chappelle sparked outrage among a long list of public figures and staff of the mega movie streaming company. The transgender section of Netflix workers staged a protest by not working either at the office or at home. An angry mob of about 100 people came with their torches and pitchforks to protest at Netflix Incorporated's headquarters on Wednesday, October 20th, 2021. Some have tagged this protest as pompous and irrelevant, with some Twitter users condemning the protest. @MintChipMusic tweeted, "Trans Netflix employees are staging a walkout in protest of Dave Chappelle's special for being supposedly transphobic." The CEO apologized and said he learned a big lesson: don't hire trans people. Of course, Ted never said that in plain words, but this user meant that this level of pettiness is not welcome. Another user joked about applying for vacant roles in the company. Like provoking the transgender community in his Netflix special wasn't enough, Chappelle went ahead to allegedly defend problematic comments by DaBaby and Harry Potter figurehead J.K. Rowling. Presenting himself as the epitome of freedom of speech, he said, "Hey, if you do anything wrong in your life and I find out about it, I'm gonna try and take everything away from you. And I don't care when I find out. Could be today, tomorrow, 15 to 20 years from now. If I find out, you're effing finished." Dave said this in the show, referring to the woke culture police force that looks for an opportunity to tarnish the image of a public figure at the slightest mistake they make. In this case, Dave doesn't admit to any wrongdoing, and he has the backing of some celebrities, including Ben Shapiro. Although celebrities like Channing Magic Mike Tatum and popular voiceover actor Lin-Manuel Miranda acknowledge their respect for Dave Chappelle and the comedic greatness, the comments he made in The Closer were just not it to them. The cancel culture, however, was not exercised by these celebrities. In a 5-minute video posted on his Instagram, he said he didn't blame the LGBTQ community, and his comments had nothing to do with them, but instead, it was about the corporate interest in what he could and could not say. He blames the media for pitting the LGBTQ community against him and setting them off to fight a practically non-existent war. He even heaped praises on the community, calling them loving and supportive. He would end the video by rewinding to the summer of 2020 when he held a camp in Ohio, which became a documentary film that received media coverage. After the film was complete, he received offers from several film festivals. After the controversy with his Netflix show surfaced, he coincidentally started to get bad reviews on the documentary film and got disinvited from the film festivals. He said that no studio or movie company was willing to showcase the movie anymore, hinting that the cancel culture was starting to take full effect. He debunked rumors of his decline of an invitation to speak to Netflix employees that got infuriated by The Closer. He said he would have accepted the invitation, and while the comedian was willing to speak to the transgender community, he will not bend to anybody's demands. Adding to that, he said he wouldn't welcome whoever hasn't watched the show to the end, and he would choose the place and time for the discussion. Hold on for the icing on the cake. He said that they must admit that Hannah Gadsby, an Australian comedian, isn't funny. Some conditions that further throw the cancel culture in the trash, and Chappelle with a bold statement that screams, "You don't frighten me." But what is his deal with Hannah Gadsby anyway? When the flames of the Chappelle transgender Netflix controversy were at their hottest, Hannah weighed in on the topic, referring to Netflix as an immoral algorithm cult. Her statement was due to a reference made by Ted Sarandon in an email comparing her Netflix specials Nanette and Douglas with Dave's controversial The Closer. Ted was trying to emphasize the diversity of Netflix to prevent misconceptions of marginalized groups. According to most people, you cannot simply abolish a person and all he has accomplished simply because of something he said that you don't agree with. In many cases, the cancel culture is somewhat justified, and we've seen most, if not all, of their achievements disappear in the wind. There's R. Kelly in the child molestation case and sex trafficking. He got blatantly and informally canceled by basically everybody, and that act could represent genuine cancel culture. That was an actual crime against humanity. There's also the case of Empire star Jussie Smollett staging an attack on himself to frame Make America Great Again supporters. He was canceled by Trump supporters, which make up a large chunk of corporate America. Even some parts of the Black American community joined in the cancellation. It was so bad that he was spat out of his breakout show Empire. Some could say the instances of cancel culture are justified, but some figures recover from cancel culture even though they never make a full recovery. Chris Brown stayed relevant after the Rihanna case. Trump emerging president after being canceled by the majority of Americans and the rest? In most of these cases, the public figures reportedly performed acts that are not acceptable to society. In Chappelle's case, however, he claimed to be funnily exercising his right to freedom of speech. Come to think of it though, if Donald Trump made such a joke, wouldn't the heat have been much worse? Perhaps the sensitivity to comments on differences in sexuality, ethnicity, religion, politics, and whatnot is taken out of context sometimes. People who act like they're woke are starting to get neutralized in a takeover led by Dave Chappelle. By standing his ground, refusing to admit to any wrongdoing, and ruling out any apology to whoever got offended from what seemingly came from a good place, Chappelle is inspiring many others to take things back to how they were when the world wasn't so divided, and people didn't have to whine over every harmless public comment. In an interview with PBS, he said that he didn't mind that people sometimes get upset by his jokes, and that he learns things from the backlash. I'm not saying it to be mean, I'm saying it because it's funny, as he revealed in one of the shows to emphasize his stance on being purely comedic and inoffensive. Chappelle aimed to prove his neutrality in transgender affairs by citing his good relationship with Daphne Dorman, a transgender comedian who died by suicide in October 2019. He said, "As hard as it is to hear a joke like that, I'm telling you right now, Daphne would have loved that joke." The statement indicates that the problem is from the thin-skinned trans community that finds it hard to take a joke compared to their hard-skinned counterparts. He suggested that it's best to deflect a seemingly offensive comment with humor instead of letting all hell break loose. He gave a backup to this suggestion by narrating his experience with an Asian woman at a show. The woman referred to him as racist and would cancel him by not buying his DVDs. He responded by stating that Chinese people don't buy DVDs, a reply that cracked up the audience. To round up the narration, he said he's married to an Asian, more proof that he's as diverse and impartial as any neutral person can be. Does the right to freedom of speech need to be reviewed? Since certain statements made could cause uproar and spark wide provocation, then could it be avoided altogether? If that were the case, maybe no one would be allowed to speak anymore. And we'd probably need to have a tight zip attached to our mouths as a new part of our anatomy. So what do you think about cancel culture? Has it gone out of hand this time? Maybe Dave Chappelle will continue to do just fine regardless of all the smoke. Subscribe to our channel and click on the bell button so you never have to miss out on new trending content.